Let's get back to Steven here. So, Steven, are you there?
Can you see me and hear me?
I can see you and hear you now. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Welcome back. Thanks for finding power.
I've got another computer here. We were lucky. Anyway, I'm ready.
So I want you to pick up right where you left off, because you were saying something about Phil Spector right before we lost you. And I kind of wanted to hear what that was.
The question was about the difference in music then and now.
Yeah, someone asked about, Dem Socialist asked about the recording process, how it has changed. You said, of course, it became all digital, and you were going on something about Phil Spector.
Well, Phil Spector taught me how to produce. He was one of the first people to teach me how to produce. And it was all live instruments. And there's a difference between a live instrument and an electronic instrument. There's also a difference between analog and digital. Mm-hmm. And it's much more real, much more organic if it's live and analog. Today it's digital. Your earwaves, and I don't want to sound as a conspiracy theorist. We're living in a different era, and your music is tinted, it's controlled, it's compressed so you can hear it on iTunes and everything else. It's not what it was when I was growing up. Also, the music industry, instead of going, if you have quality, you'll have quantity. We live in a country where we want quantity. When 9/11 happened, I realized our nation was different when George Bush went on TV and told everyone, let's prove to the world that we're still okay. Go shop, or whatever his words were. It's like, hey, wait a minute. What are you telling people? Go in debt, go in debt, go in debt. We'll own you, we'll control you. We'll ruin your families because you have debt. It's wrong. You either worship people or you worship mammon. We need to get back to the people. The banks don't need to be how we fund our nation. The people are the ones that will build a nation. The people are the ones that will build a community. And I'm an entrepreneur. I love making money. I love creating new things. An entrepreneur created the concept called capitalism. Adam Smith wrote his books, Wealth of a Nation, and he also wrote a book called Moral Sentiments, which is where Wealth of a Nation came from. There's not one word in there about capitalism. The first time capitalism was used was in a German book novel in 1854. We need to build entrepreneurs. We need to teach people how to dream, how to create, how to make a team, and go live your life. That's what we need to do.
I love the fact that you point out the book Wealth of Nations, because I say this to a lot of people. I used to make the joke. I was like, if Wealth of Nations, the book, came out today, it would be considered a center-left book, and Fox News would pan it because it's 600 pages and there aren't any pictures. That book, I mean, he talks about wages being high. He talks about a small gap between the workers and the owners. A lot of those ideas, people really cherry-picked the stuff he actually said to make a lot of the right-wing and capitalism arguments that you hear. But when you really read the whole book, it was actually, more progressive than anything else. A lot of it.
It was more real. And the book Moral Sentiments. And by the way, I'll just throw this in because it's important. In 1947, after the WASP, basically the WASPs, living in Europe, had 2 world wars to see who could own more than the other one. What the United States did is we created a Marshall Plan. And the Marshall Plan set up a social safety net for all of Europe so they don't go kill themselves again. Mm-hmm. So in the United States, we've become the old Europe. We have the largest disparity between rich and poor of any nation in the world, and it's wrong. You need people to be able to compete. You need people to believe they can become something. You don't give them money and tell them to drop out of society. You don't tell them they're useless because they can't get a job. What job? What job are you going to get? A job requires someone to need what you're offering. When Trump's running around talking about rebuilding 1950 America, people believed it because there was no counter message. We need to live in the information age. We need to have a 21st century government. I will do everything I can to help that become a reality. I want to serve man.
All right, we got a couple. We got some questions in the chat here. DC wasps. And DC also wants to know, what is your stance on the legalization of pot, and what is your stance on preemptive war?
Okay, two things. You asked me two questions, right? So let's do pot first.
Yep.
I have always been an advocate to legalize pot. God or the Creator created pot with Mother Earth. Man didn't make it. It needs to be legalized. It's a law that doesn't work. I'm legally trained. If more than half the people don't buy into the law, you've taught disrespect for the law. If the same people who are enforcing the law smoke the pot, there's something really wrong. That's a bad law. Bad laws need to go bye-bye. We need to have law where everyone accepts, that's equally applicable to everyone in the nation. Not, I'll put the black people and the poor people in jail for smoking pot so I could get free labor out of them working in the pay-for-play prisons of our nation. I'm an ex-public defender. What our country does, putting people in jail for smoking pot, is horrible. But we don't put you in jail when the doctors go giving kids Xanax and other disease minds, stuff like Oxycontin. We need to wake up. We need to become consistent, and we need to make people believe in a dream. The dream is your life. You're talking about preemptive war. What is preemptive war? 1941, December 8th in Tokyo, December 7th in the United States, Pearl Harbor was bombed. You know, there were stories where we knew they were going to bomb it. Why were our ships doing exercises earlier? How can you have a preemptive war? How do you know what's going to go on? We need to build a world where we're not running around with different banking organizations going into Iraq or other nations to go steal their oil. It needs to stop. We need to really stop.
So you're against
we're
the
separated by
industrial complex.
Say it again. The industrial.
You're against.
And I said it best. I don't believe in preemptive war. They're either at war or they're not at war. So we're going to sit there and spy on them to see what they're doing? Doesn't work. You know, in 1939, I think it was, I wasn't here, but H.G. Wells went on the radio and read War of the Worlds. Those people thought they were being attacked. Can you imagine? When do you think it could just be a play? It could be anything. I'm against preemptive war. But I do believe in fighting. I don't bark, I bite. And if someone wants to fight, let's go fight. If that's how we have to resort to it, that's what we need to do. But we don't need to go make money for oil companies that put none of it back in the people.
All right. So switching gears here, Marcus really wants to know, what do you think of the Milli Vanilli scandal?
I did it with Bobby Brown. Okay, what did that mean? Bobby Brown one day didn't show up in the studio, and straight up, we had Ralph Tresvant sing the song Every Little Step.
Okay.
It goes on nonstop. There were fillers all the way through. You know, like the Kinks and the Who, Shel Talmy used to fight with them, who was the producer and found them. Didn't find them, but he made them successful. You fill it in. The recording doesn't mean that's really who they are. Milli Vanilli became the front for it, and that's what they did.
Cool. Thanks. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm scrolling the chat to see if people have some questions for you. Which, by the way, guys, over on the live meet, please do submit your questions. We got him back. Our guest is back. Steve Machat, rock and roller, turned candidate, running for Florida's 26th, wants to represent all Floridians. And so you mentioned that you have experience with fracking. Could you embellish on that a little bit or expand on that, please?
In another incarnation in my life, I was doing oil, gas, and software leasing contracts, and I helped create a form contract for fracking. It's real simple. How do you share the money from the gas that you're unleashing on Earth? A couple of years later, I met a man named Josh Fox who was looking for music for a movie called Gasland. I became friends with him, and I learned what fracking really does. And I ended up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I had a radio show once a week. And I saw these people giving fracking companies under the guise that they're small businesses, which wasn't true. They would give them access to their land, and they would go in their land. And I'll give you an analogy, and I'm just being straight up. It's like me putting dynamite in your body to blow it up so I could get you to fart. the gas from the fart. That's what they capture on Earth. But I just blew up your body. If you go under there and you're blowing up gas and you're going to capture the gas, you've unleashed energy that ends up in our water, ends up in our food, ends up in the air, and it will kill us. And we sit there and we let it go on so these companies have something to go sell around the world. We don't need to do that. There's a reason it's buried. There's a reason it's dinosaurs. It's buried. It's not for surface or for air. It's below us. It needs to stay there. We are not bigger and better than nature. We are nature, and we're rooting the earth. And you know what the earth's going to do to us? It's going to get rid of us. It will change the composition that creates the balanced life that allows us to live in these earth bodies and live here on earth. I get it, and it's so simple. There's no magic. We're here as visitors. The Native Indians taught us that. We're here to make sure Earth's here for our future generations. And you don't need to go around the world selling gas that you took from Earth and poisoning the people of Earth. It needs to stop.
No pushback here. Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think you pretty much nailed it. So Dem Socialist wants to know, what is your stance on nuclear energy?
I think it's dangerous. I would go solar instead of nuclear. Nuclear energy creates a different balance here on Earth. It's dangerous. We're balanced. It's that simple. It's like we're a piano. We're living here, and this piano is balanced. It plays notes from A to G, and if you put nuclear energy here, you may be making notes H, I, and J, and it will change the world that we know. Mm-hmm. And you know something? I don't know, but I've always thought that Atlantis brought in nuclear energy and blew it up. That's what I've always thought.
So, well, getting back to solar, then, do you have any plans like should you get the position in Florida, like are there any like kind of solar energy propositions you're looking into? Any type of ideas that you're looking into with that?
100%. We need to go solar. If I was in charge of the United States after the hurricane. You know, after the hurricane hit the Everglades and then the next one hit Puerto Rico, I wouldn't rebuild their electric system, because to rebuild it, you have to find out where it went down. I make movies. We could have built a whole new system, and we could have gone solar right then and there. We could have built the system and at the same time build a solar system. We gave an electric grid to Iraq. Why couldn't we give Puerto Rico a new grid? Why did we have to go find out where all the things went down and spend time like this? Why can't we take care of our people, not just throw toilet paper at them? It's wrong. It's really, really wrong. We need to live in the 21st century and make sure that the dinosaur thought process that's in a lot of our heads, because we're taught at school, this is the way it always was. No, it's not, my friends. No, it's not. Get me in Congress, help donate to me, get me in. The people get me in. I will represent you people like no one ever has. I'll make you proud.
So last question here. Joe wants to know, what are your thoughts on HR 608, Tulsi's Stop Arming Terrorists bill?
I so agree. I so agree. What we do is we arm the same we created ISIS. We created Al-Qaeda. We sit there and like we're being cute. It's like a boys. We're all at college. It's 1980. And it's like, let's screw the Russians. Let's go fund Afghanistan's revolt against the Russians. Well, while we're getting rid of that white race, all of a sudden they get our weapons, they get our equipment. We train them to come after us. But they can't come across the oceans. They go there and they don't want us in their lands. Why are we in their lands? Why does America have to believe that our job on earth is to own and control everyone's natural resources? We need to stop funding terrorists. Look what we did in Libya. Look what we're doing in Syria. Now, I know history, and I really know it well. In 1923, when they separated and divided and created all the Middle East countries called Jordan, called Palestine and Israel, called Syria and Lebanon and Iraq and Kuwait and Arabia. They gave the name to the Wahhabis called the Saudis. When they created these lands, Turkey, which was the Ottoman Turk Empire, they had a Kurdish population. They were promised their own nation. Well, guess what? The British and French lied. Harding, who was then president, didn't give a hoot. And these people today are the U.S. people, the people that the U.S. are arming to help knock out the Syrian terrorists who are backing a regime that gives everybody health care, gives everyone free education. He's not a Muslim. He's an Alawite, and you need to look up what an Alawite is. And it's wrong. We need to stop funding terrorism. There's no reason for it. And we need to stop being the world's police force. We don't get paid to do that. We weren't asked to do that by God. And if we really believe in God and we live with God, we don't need to go beat up and bully the rest of the world. We need to make them better. They don't need to be part of our banking system.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't believe in God, but I totally agree with everything you just said, regardless of that. But so anything else that you can you give everybody some information? What is your website? How can they learn more about your campaign?
Go to Machat, Machat 2018.com. That's my website. There you could also donate to me. I really need donations. It's like playing a song on a jukebox. Play me. I promise you, I will make you proud. I promise you, I will represent you. That's all I want. That's all I want to do. I want to help our country heal so we all go forward, so our grandchildren and their grandchildren have something to live in. And I all I'm asking for is people to give me a second, see how it resonates with you, see how it sits with you.
So
talk with you. It's been fun, even though one computer went down.
Yeah. Thanks for plowing through that and hopping back on. It was great to have you back. I really appreciate that. A few last comments that people want to say. First of all, I got bars. Thank you very much. And no, I don't believe in multiple gods. I always tell people I'm either an atheist or an agnostic, depending on what part of the country I'm in and how often people are armed. Kimmy wants to know, how do you spell Alawite? How do you spell that?
I'm going to guess. I think it's Aluitles. Aluites.
There you go. And I'm not familiar with that myself either. Joe says, I wish I could vote for this man. Too bad I live in California. Well, you can learn more about his campaign. Go to Machat2018.com. That's Machat 2018.com, where you can learn more about him and what he's doing and how he's going in Florida's 26. Steve, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to reading this. And when I do, we'll have to have you back.
Bring me back and enjoy the book that you got. I'm promise excited. You as well.
I'm excited. Yeah, and we'll have to talk about it once I read it. That'll be great.
Yeah, and I'll be in LA soon anyway, so I look forward to meeting you and listening
in person.
I appreciate every moment you gave me. I thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.